Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. We're going to look at three fabulous videos that really show us how we can see that we're on a level stationary plane. The first two are by people who have realized that we are on a stationary level Earth, and the third is actually by an anti-flat earther, a globe Earth proponent, but we'll see from the video what is being ignored, and we'll also see the mindset behind people who wish to use all kinds of observations to say that these are proof of the globe, when in fact they are more like proof that people will ignore the things that tell us we are not observing curvature. So we'll start off with this one. This is by Flat Truth, and it's a time lapse of the sunrise, and it's an excellent demonstration of how the sun comes across the sky and doesn't actually come up from the horizon. We can see here it starts to get light, and the sun will appear here in a minute just above these clouds. There we go. All right. So here we have the sun emerging from above this cloud line here. So we'll just watch as it comes up, and filters and things like that are irrelevant here. What we can see here is that before the sun came into view, it was basically blocked by these clouds, and it's very simple to explain what's happening here. I'll just take it back to that point. So this, I think, is a view from a farm, and we can see that the clouds that are close to the horizon are really not that far away. So we know that we see these clouds appearing to touch the horizon simply because of perspective. The further away those clouds are, the closer they will appear to be towards the horizon. This is just angular size perspective that governs any kind of observation. So what we can see here is that obviously, the sun is higher than the clouds. So we just have three levels. Yeah, we have the Earth here, and then we have a gap between the Earth and the clouds, and then we have the sun at a higher level than the clouds. So of course, simply due to the laws of perspective, we see the clouds appearing to meet the horizon, and because the sun is higher up, it eventually comes into view above the clouds. So if this was a longer, more distant shot, then of course that band of clouds that we can see here below the sun would get smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually become part of the horizon. If you go and look at footage by Wide Awake, who takes lots of footage of sunsets across a large stretch of water, we can see this, because when you zoom in on the sun that appears to be meeting the horizon and being cut off by the Earth, it is not actually being cut off by the Earth. It is simply going beyond the clouds, just as we can see here. But of course, with greater distance, those clouds have become smaller and smaller as in angular size, and they just become part of the horizon. So from our perspective, looking at a very distant sun and distant horizon, then of course the sun does appear to just rise up from the Earth, and this could give us the impression that it's the Earth that's moving or rotating to allow the sun to come up. But in fact, all that's happening is a longer distant version of what we see happening here, is a higher sun than the clouds, and of course eventually the sun comes into view and continues to go across the Earth. So an excellent demonstration, and it'd be great if you go and sub to this guy, Flat Truth, because he's promised to put up daily videos, time lapses. So this will be really interesting to see. So I did comment, and he replied that I'm providing raw footage for anyone to use. Please feel free to copy and use anytime. I will be posting every day for the next year. So there will be hazy days soon where the sun will be exactly the same as the moon and will be stunning examples. If I can get more cameras going, I will, as can be read in my channel description, name the camera after the donator. Anyway, so that's great. So it might be worth going to sub to this guy, Flat Truth. I'll put a link in the description so you can go and check this out for yourself. But I thought it was an excellent demonstration of how the sun comes into view above the clouds. It doesn't necessarily rise up from the horizon. So the next video here is by an Italian gentleman. And his channel is Earth Measured, and in this particular video he does it in English, which is great. It's obviously his second language. He's not a native speaker of English, but it's wonderful that this guy has produced this video in English so that he can reach a wider audience, I suppose. And basically, as it says here, 1 degree of latitude on the globe is 111 kilometers over the flat Earth. So he basically explains how the measurements that are made by Eratosthenes and the angles to the sun work fine on a level plane. And he also talks about how the changing of the position of the sun between the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer throughout the year, and how this fits in with zetetic astronomy, with the sun doing concentric circles in a kind of pyramid throughout the year, and works absolutely fine based on the measurements that you can make. So this is an excellent way to reach an understanding that the angles to the sun that can be measured and the distances between those points of measurements, for example, with the Eratosthenes experiment between Alexandra and Cyan, will give us results that can be interpreted as a globe or a level Earth. So I'll let again, leave a link in the description so that you can go and listen to this chap yourself and possibly subscribe to him. So this is great. It's great that someone's bringing this information forward and helping people to be able to perceive and understand that when we are measuring angles to the sun, it is all a matter of interpretation. And as I've personally always said, perspective is the imaginary curve. So any observation is governed by perspective. You're going to have the geometry of perspective should be applied to those observations. And this is why it is translated into an imaginary curve on the Earth, when in fact it is the geometry of perspective and angular size that is giving us these angles. So go and check him out. And the final one, this is by a guy called Wolfie6020, who is a globe believer and really dislikes flat Earth. And as you can see here, he's claiming that these observations of Bathurst Lighthouse strikes a flat Earth another death blow. This is often the kind of rhetoric we'll hear. So I did ask for permission. Wolfie, do you give me permission to show screenshots of your video so that I can respond to your claims? And immediately we had a lot of his supporters jump in and say some nasty things. Phuket, you do realize that every word you say about this will just make you look more and more pathetic, etc. So a lot of damage control going on before I'd even got a response from Wolfie. And here is his response. Phuket, why bother asking now? You have used my footage many times without asking previously. Use whatever you want. I don't watch your videos anyway, and there will be no response to anything you produce. I would not waste my subs' time with your garbage, so knock yourself out. And yeah, it goes on. I mean, it's the usual thing where we've got this kind of rhetoric, and I did ask again, if there's a lot of back and forth now. So where is it? I just wanted to point out where I basically asked him in this video. He claims that what the observations that are made are solely down to curvature, the curvature of the globe Earth, and we'll see why that is not true. And I did ask if he wanted to add anything and stick to the claim that it was only curvature, and all I got was a lot of verbal abuse in return. So what is interesting to point out here, though, is the kind of the people and the mindset of the people that got a response from before Wolfie was able to answer himself. This guy here, David Ackerman, for example, this is his channel, and what he's got a video of here is a model of the Apollo 11 being put up in the sky on a weather balloon. Okay, so obviously you can see that this is a GoPro, and it wouldn't. You can see that this is done on a GoPro. It wouldn't surprise me if this person believed that he's actually seeing curvature there, even though at some points it, for example, levels out and we get this concave appearance. This is simply a result of using a wide angle or fisheye lens, and so this is one thing that if you start researching flat Earth and observations of alleged curvature, you have to look into is the properties of the lenses, and we can just see here this horizon bending backwards and forwards. Of course, it might at some points look like a globe, but basically what we have here is someone who is obviously very passionate about space travel and the idea that the Earth is a globe and we are in this solar system and we're going off to the moon and things like that. So I wouldn't expect someone of this mindset to even begin to start considering that he might be believing a lie. Really, people like that are going to support videos such as this, and they will also at the same time attack flat Earth research videos. But of course, they feel that their belief is being attacked by flat earthers, simply because flat earthers or flat Earth researchers are being scientific. In science, in the scientific method, the whole idea is to test theories and see whether or not they hold true. That is real pragmatic science. But what we can of course see with proponents of the globe that really hate flat Earth research and will do anything they can to try and debunk or throw death blows at flat Earth is that they will not be scientific. So flat Earth research is scientific in the fact that we're going back to that position where we are saying, well, let's look, let's test, and let's see what the other variables and factors are involved in a particular observation. So what we do have here is these observations made by Wolfie, which he says are about an 8-meter elevation above sea level from this location in Perth, looking across the sea. And of course, what we have here is a ship, and we can't see the bottom of the ship. So this is the usual argument that the bottoms of ships disappear down a curve in front of us. But all you have to do is just look at what's actually happening here. We have this obvious mirroring. We have this apparent horizon line here, and then we have mirroring of the ship that is actually just blocking the rest of the view of the ship. This is so obvious, and of course down here what we have is mirroring of the sky. So we just have to look, and this is a natural optical phenomenon which we'll have a look at in a second, but this has been passed off as being caused by curvature. So let's just go through this,
and there are more ships to the right.
Oh dear, why is that happening? Okay, we can see exactly the same thing happening here. We see this ship which might appear or can be said to be disappearing down some curve, but obviously it's further away, so the angular size is smaller, and we have this very obvious mirroring here between this kind of vanishing line and the horizon line, or apparent horizon line here. And that reflection is blocking off the rest of the view. It's very simple. So then he goes to show his location. What we see here is a ship that is closer, so it appears to be on the horizon. So one thing I'd like to suggest here to anyone doing this kind of research or making these kinds of observations and believing that they are seeing curvature is very, very simple. At the moment, he's taking this footage from a level of about 8 meters above the sea, and all you have to do is get a drone, of which Wolfie owns many, and fly up, get a higher elevation, and when we look across a flat surface in this respect, then what we will see is the surface beyond that ship appears in our field of view. And what we'll end up getting is a horizon that ends up being higher, appearing higher than the ship itself. This will tell us it's flat, because if you are claiming that this horizon line is a curve down, it shouldn't matter how much higher you get above the surface, that horizon will not change. And this is why you'll often hear for an argument for flat Earth is that the horizon always rises to eye level. Now, people will argue about minute fractions of degrees when you get up very, very high, but basically the whole realization here, which anyone can test for themselves on a tabletop, is that when you're down low, something will appear to be on the horizon. But if it's a flat surface, the moment you rise up higher, you will see the surface beyond that object extend, and eventually you'll get a horizon that does appear in our view to be higher than the object when we were looking at it at a lower level. Anyone can test this on a tabletop. I just get for example, a toy car or something, put it in the center of a table, and get a camera, get down low, get a low perspective, and the car will appear to be on this horizon created by the tabletop. Rise up a few centimeters or inches, and you will see the surface that's beyond that car extend beyond it. This tells you it's flat. So this is an experiment that I suggest anyone does if they have the the resources to do so, which Wolfie does, and he's demonstrated this many times. So that's all we have to do to then go and be scientific about your observations and prove this assertion and claim that this line here is curvature, because you shouldn't see beyond that if you gain any height. Again, this is why we always talk about perspective. It's very, very simple. So
and of course,
right, what we have here next is this Bathurst lighthouse,
and there's Bathurst Lighthouse. And as you can see, it appears that the base of the lighthouse is touching the water. But we know there is a significant amount of land under that lighthouse, and yet even from an 8-metre elevation it is not visible.
Okay, so again, in this video, he does in fact claim that everything we see, or the things we cannot see, the bottoms of the lighthouse and the bottom of a windmill, are because of curvature of the Earth. But if we just look, what are we actually seeing here? Okay, we'll listen to what he
And there's
says
the wind turbine, and that wind turbine is actually located on a hill. But again, because of the curvature of the Earth, from this distance it appears that the base is touching the water.
Okay, so he made that outright claim. Because of the curvature of the Earth, it appears that the base of that windmill is touching the water. So, as I mentioned earlier on, I asked him in the comments if he was considering that there would be any other factor that would contribute to this observation of things appearing to touch the water. Now, just to cover everything that he mentions in here, the view of Bathurst Lighthouse is about 26 kilometres away. He was an elevation of about 8 metres, and he does refer to Earth curvature calculator, and talks about standard refraction as kind of being part of the calculations here. And basically, we have this claim that, you know, not being able to see Bathurst Lighthouse is only due to, let's just have a look here. So here's a shot that shows that the lighthouse is on a chunk of land. Okay, so obviously this is being viewed from 26 kilometers away, and we are getting this. Well, what are we getting? We're getting a lot of mirroring. You can see everything's being mirrored here. You've got this object and the land being mirrored, and then you have the sky being mirrored in at the horizon here. So let's just go and have a look at what this actually is. It's very well explained on this website here, which is at optics.co.uk, and we can see a photograph here that was taken 23 kilometers away from this skyline at Selsey Beach in southern England, and it is shortly after sunset, and is about, you can see that everything is apparently mirrored in the sea. So what I've done is just I've put this into GIMP just to try to illustrate what's being explained here. So what we have, it says, is this mirage, which is, again, let's just go back and have a look at that footage. Okay.
An 8-metre elevation.
Okay. We can see very clearly that we are getting mirroring. Okay, the very same effect, and the footage that Wolfie took was 26 kilometers away. This is 23 kilometers, so just 3 kilometers shy of what Wolfie observed there, and you can see this very distinctive mirroring. All right, so the mirage, called an inferior mirage because the image is below the real object, is produced by a layer of abnormally warm air heated by the sea and beneath cooler layers. Light passing at low angles across the layers is refracted so that rays coming from the tops of the buildings appear to be coming upwards from the horizon. Our brain interprets that as a reflection from water. There is more. The horizon is missing, and the base of buildings and low-lying land cannot be seen, either below or above the line joining the real view and the mirage. This is a vanishing line effect. Okay, so what we have here is an illustration on the right-hand side, which it's got its labels, and I've added these colors, the green and the yellow, to kind of show what's happening here. So we'll have a look at the explanation that's given here. The ray diagram at right tries to show what's happening, but like all mirage ray diagrams, the vertical scale has to be grossly exaggerated. All possible rays between the eye and a distant tower are shown. So what we have is two rays from the tower top A that reach the eye. The upper one is slightly curved downwards towards the warmer air. The lower ray is sharply curved and appears to the eye to come from a tower reflected in the water. So we just have a look here. We've got two rays. So we've got that one that goes directly to the observer's eye, and then another line which is basically creating this reflection and comes up from here. Okay, so we've got that here, and then B, where are we? Yeah, rays from lower down B do the same. So basically between A and B we've got a very similar thing happening. So here we've got A and B here. So basically the upper parts of the structure are being, we are seeing the upper part, and we are seeing that upper part reflected in the water. So between A and B, or it not reflected in the water, but appears to be reflected in the water because the way light is bending through, or diffraction, you can call it diffraction, refraction, the way it's bending through this different layer of dense air above the water. And then we have C here, so I've got a line here to represent C, and it says here, position C is different. Only one ray reaches the eye. Rays from lower down the tower cannot reach the eye at all. That part of the tower is invisible. So basically C. So anything that's physically below this line and would normally be visible across this sea level is not visible anymore, because as you can see from the diagram here that we have the light from A and B comes down and literally blocks off the view that we have of the lower portion. Yeah, so we're seeing what appears to be this reflection, and it's that reflection that's simply blocking off this line of sight, yeah, from here to C. These rays of light, basically whatever we are seeing on top is coming down and being reflected, or appears to be reflected, and that reflection blocks off what we would normally see if the air wasn't this different layers of density. Right, so the level C is the level of the mirage or vanishing line. So we've got this V here to represent where that level, where the vanishing line. So here we can see V up here. All right, so that's basically where that vanishing line starts. Vanishing line because you can't see what's actually there. So here between V and the vanishing line and the apparent horizon, we have this reflection, or apparent reflection, that's blocking off everything that should normally be seen. Yeah. So the level C is the level of the mirage vanishing line. The real view and inverted mirage view join at the vanishing line, and the eye can see no details of the scene that are below it. The more distant the object, the higher is the vanishing line. So yeah, just to reiterate, we can see here that usually, normally, under normal conditions, with no atmospheric refraction, diffraction, what have you, this person would be able to see the base of this tower, just as they would be able to see the base of Bathurst Lighthouse, or the base of the windmill, or the decks of the ship that are still on the horizon. But because of this mirroring, because the light coming to our eyes is being bent, refracted, diffracted, then that is blocking off the view that we would normally have. So yeah, I just forgot to kind of point out here that so below this C line or vanishing line, what we have is A and B. This section here between A and B is being reflected here. That's what it appears to be doing. Yeah. So here is a scientific explanation for what is being observed across a flat level surface. Yet here in this video we have this dogmatic claim that everything that's being seen and observed is only due to the curvature of the Earth. This mirroring that is clearly visible is being ignored. And of course, if let's say a flat Earth researcher posted a video making an observation, then there would be constructive criticism. Of course, there would be a lot of positive feedback, but there would also be constructive criticism about what's being seen. But here, basically, there is no one supporting this observation who even questions that this could be not due to curvature, but due to atmospheric refraction and reflection and miraging. Yeah. So it's just a great example, as I said, of the mindset of people who wish to defend the globe. And we can see from this type of observation and these types of claims and the reactions from the people that follow this kind of video, that they are defending a belief, and in defense of that belief they will also attack people who dare to question that belief. And that is what you see, and this is how we know. This is one of the main reasons we know that the globe is a belief. And of course it's all connected to the idea of going up into space. It's a very manly thing, penetrating space with phallic rockets and what have you. This is all very, very manly in that respect. So there you go, really. Do check out these two guys that I mentioned earlier, Flat's Truth and his daily observations, and this chap here, Earth Measured. And this will be a great way to get people to hopefully reach a better understanding of how we've been taught to interpret observations in only one dogmatic, religious-like way, rather than being taught to realize and understand that you can make a number of interpretations from observations. This is simply a fact of life. We can see something and we will internalize it, we'll interpret it in a way that suits us, just as these images of miraging have been interpreted as curvature. When anyone who is detached from belief will be able to look at this with an open, pragmatic, scientific mind and say, no, what we're seeing is explained with natural phenomenon, real physics. Thank you very much. Click subscribe and the bell icon if you'd like to receive notifications of new videos from Phuket Word.